chick flicks, romantic comedies, rom-coms. You love them, you hate them, but we are here to eviscerate them. Welcome to the RomCom Killjoys podcast. I'm your host, Janelle Walker. Now, let's get on with some feminist joy killing.
Surprise, everyone. It's actually Dave and Geoff. Hello.
Hello.
Hi, Geoff. How are you?
I'm doing great. You know what I just watched?
What did you just watch?
Christian Mingle.
That's so funny. I just watched it too.
Whoa, crazy. That's wild.
Incredible.
Incredible.
Let's talk about it.
You know, I was just thinking we should talk about Christian Mingle.
Funny you're here. And
Yeah.
Amazing. I'm glad we're on the same wavelength. That's why we're so good at Mind Meld.
Yeah. Christian Mingle is, it's not just a website where Christians can find Christians. It is also a feature-length movie. It's about 104 minutes long. I believe it was made for exclusively direct-to-video or like video-on-demand services for like airlines and other, transit or
Like
hotel services.
Reference, this movie was actually difficult to acquire. It is not on Amazon. It is not on Netflix. It's not on
YouTube.
Hulu. It is not on YouTube. It is not on Dailymotion. I had to buy this off of Amazon from the Goodwill in Denver, Colorado, and they had to mail it to me.
You didn't tell me the full story of where you bought it. I thought you just got it off of Amazon.
That is the extent of the story.
So, dear listeners, please understand we paid each $3, $6 total.
Yeah, this movie cost me $6 whole.
$6 whole. So you better appreciate it.
Anyway. So yeah, Christian Mingle. It is a feature-length movie. It is essentially an extended advertisement for the Christian Mingle website.
Yes, and I did count. Throughout the course of the 104 minutes of this film, they directly mention Christian Mingle either through dialogue or an actual commercial ad on a TV 8 times. So that's about every 12, 13 minutes on average.
And describe it as being extremely respectable and very legitimate.
Those are direct quotes from the movie. As someone is explaining to someone else, yes, I did in fact use a dating website for Christians. We should probably talk about the plot of the movie a little bit.
Yeah, so the basic plot is that Gwyneth Hayden is a out of love luck single 30-year-old who has dated a lot but has only a couple of relationships to actually show for it.
Her introduction, because I want to talk about this, because this is kind of the whole like premise of the movie. This is why she goes through the whole ordeal of the movie. We see her in a restaurant or bar with her date, who's this kind of weaselly looking dude. And she's telling him about going to visit France, and he's clearly not paying attention to her. She clearly is only going after the like skeeziest of guys, just the worst, the lowest of the low. He's staring off at some hot blonde women over at the bar, while kind of idly telling her that French cheese makes it hard for him to take a shit.
Yeah, he's like, French cheese, it clogs up the pipes. And then she's telling him about like, oh, how amazing France is. He's like, yeah, okay, sure. Mm-hmm, France,
it's
cool.
like, well, how did you get to this point, Gwen?
But so she's not very good at finding the right kind of man, and she really wants to get married, and she's panicking because all of her friends are getting married,
like dripping with desperation.
Yeah, and all of her friends call her desperate as well. She has very real friends. And so in the depths of this despair and her desperation, she goes on to Christian Mingle to try and find a nice fella. And she does. She goes on one date and she meets this guy named Paul, who, if you bred a golden retriever to become a human, that's basically what he would be.
He's Paul looks exactly like you think he does. He is wearing khakis. He has a sort of off-white or like check pattern button-down shirt in basically every scene.
He says his favorite food is chili dogs, but it's probably oatmeal.
Yeah, he does
if we're
not
gonna
look
be
like the
real.
kind of person who eats chili dogs on the regular. He's very, very skinny and bony.
I think he drinks 1% because 2% gives him gas.
He considers black pepper to be spicy.
Yeah, that's like ethnic food to him.
Yeah.
And we'll get into his opinions on ethnic food at some point. Anyway,
Yeah.
she pretends to be Christian. Like the website asks her, like, what church do you go to? And she writes, all lowercase, God's church.
God's church.
Not even in capital G, God.
Which apparently is good enough for Paul.
Good enough for Paul. He was like, yep, that's legit. I believe this.
Yeah.
But he's super nice, and he's actually a genuinely great person. And they fall in love, and she gets deeper and deeper into the lie, and she starts going to Bible study, and she picks up a book on Christianity for dummies to try and pass herself off as deeply, deeply religious so that she can continue to be with Paul. Well, at some point, she gets invited to go on a mission with him down to Mexico to rebuild this church.
So destroyed in a hurricane.
Destroyed in a hurricane with Paul's family, who's also deeply religious and working to rebuild this town and rebuild this church. And in their Bible study class with all of the villagers, this little Mexican girl asks, if God is filled with love, why does he send such terrible things to us? And she can't answer that question. And that's when everybody knows that the jig is up. Because
also, one of the little Mexican children found her Christianity for Dummies books in her luggage.
Yes. And so they got soft evidence in that she doesn't know why bad things happen to good people, and hard evidence in that she's got this cheat sheet for Christianity.
So there's a kind of a messy, heartfelt breakup. She returns back to the USA.
Yep. But in the process, she discovers that she actually is really into Christianity and has opened her heart to Jesus. She joins a black church, and it's super duper fun, and she's real into it. Then she tries to go back to Paul to get him to break up with his longtime sweetheart / Bible camp best friend, Kelly. He turns her down, and then she gets really broken up, but then starts living for other people. She goes back to Mexico, fulfills her lifelong dream of becoming a teacher there. And at the very end, in like the last 2.5 minutes of the movie, Paul comes back, says he's broken up with Kelly, and they get together, and everything's great.
They actually get married in the credits sequence.
Yeah.
There's it cuts to the credits. And the opening credits and the end credits are essentially thematically the same. It's snapshots of people either on dates or someone proposing to someone else. So you have this kind of like Polaroid of Paul proposing to Gwen.
Yeah.
And it's very nice. I'm sure they'll be lovely and happy together. But you just get kind of a quick the end. That's it.
So that's the plot of the movie. I'm going to be honest, it's not very dramatic. Everybody in the movie is actually a pretty nice person, and
fairly
they
reasonable.
might just not understand each other. Everybody's just kind of goofy, but there's no bad guy.
Yeah, actually, it's really interesting that you bring that up, because you would, in any other movie, I was going to say rom-com, but really any other movie, you would at least have some kind of antagonist. In this movie, it would be Kelly.
Or maybe his mom, because his mom senses that she's being deceitful and that she's not a true believer.
Pretty much every character other than Paul and Gwen, their screen time is just minimal. Like they're hardly there, and there's really no writing about them.
There's no writing about them, so you can't really get mad at anyone or root against anyone. So you're just like, you're kind of going through it, and it's really all about Paul and Gwen. So it's not very dramatic, but I'm going to be honest, I actually liked this movie.
I enjoyed it. I had some real genuine laughs.
Yeah. So a big theme of the movie is like Christianity not taking itself too seriously. And so because Gwen is trying to fake it, like her only like conception of what a Christian is this like hyper fundamentalist thing. So she's like,
I was really confused by this. Well, she says throughout the movie, she says it a couple times, that she grew up in a Christian household. She was baptized. You know, she has been to a church before, presumably, but every time, literally every time, she's asked to say grace or volunteers herself to say grace before a meal, she just kind of stumbles through it. She's not quoting any particular scripture or verse, which I mean,
say amen.
She doesn't say amen. Like literally doesn't know that amen is a thing.
She's like an alien.
Yeah, she acts like an alien about Christianity when I don't know. It's just something that the writers of this movie had to focus on, I guess, because it is an ad for believers finding believers, Christian Mingle.
So yeah, she like in trying to put on this disguise, she Googles like most popular Bible verses or something to try and like give her a cheat sheet to remember. And she goes to a Bible study, and she finds out that two of the people are married. She's like, oh, marriage, that's so great. As they say in Corinthians, to avoid the temptation of the sexual flesh, let one man have only one woman as a wife until death. It's like this super intense Bible verse.
Yeah. Everyone looks kind of taken aback. They're very uncomfortable, actually.
Yeah. So, it's like Christian Mingle, it's not for that kind of Christian.
It is interesting. And we were sort of talking about this while we were watching, that it would have been so good if by the end of the movie, and this was the big kind of reveal, was it would have been great if everyone didn't think that she was a fake Christian, but that she was like extreme in some way, that she was
a
like,
real
fundamentalist
opportunity.
Yeah, I think it really would have been a kind of interesting and funny twist.
But this movie is not quite that funny. It had some pretty good jokes with the her making up all these weird prayers and quoting intense Bible verses.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, it's very bland.
Yeah, it is.
Paul would like this movie.
It's the
very character Paul
movie.
Would love this movie. This would be his favorite rom-com.
Big bowl of oatmeal.
It's a big bowl of oatmeal. But something surprising is there's actually some like fairly strong acting chops in this movie. Yeah, there's some interesting people who are actually working in this. One is Stephen Tobolowsky, who's famously Ned from Groundhog Day, the insurance salesman.
Gwen played Gretchen on Mean Girls, Lacey Chabert.
Oh, that is how I recognize her. And then there's also John O'Hurley, who is Elaine's boss, Mr. Peterman from Seinfeld.
Right, and he is. We'll get to him.
So first, Stephen Tobolowsky plays Gwen's boss at this ad company that they work for.
His name is Douglas, but everyone calls him the Admiral.
He's got a huge ship thing. He wears a captain's hat. He's got like ties that have anchors on them.
Everywhere in this ad agency, there's like model ships,
nautical themes.
Nautical
Never
things.
Explained why, but that's just his thing.
It's just the funny thing that he's a wacky ad agency guy. When he pops through a door, every scene that he comes in, he bursts through the door and he's like, all hands on deck.
Yeah, it's got a very like Kramer feel to it, and you can tell he's just having a ball doing this movie.
I would bet that he actually had to be told to tone it down a little bit, because I really, really, really wanted him to like amp it up a little more.
Yeah. He was doing all this. He's doing all this great physical comedy. He's like pretending to be an airplane. He's really sad that he's bald, and they pick up this client who sells these pills that make you not bald.
That's Donnie DeBona.
Donnie DeBona, and he looks like evil Guy Fieri.
Yes, he's like a Guy Fieri, Paul Hollywood fusion.
Yeah, God, the worst episode of Dragon Ball Z.
Yep. So he's got he wears all black. He's got a black leather jacket, dark beard, but like bleach blonde, like platinum blonde hair, kind of like spiked up a little bit.
And he sells this kind of snake oil baldness cure, which
It's
is
a
never actually
pill.
shown to not work.
No,
It's just assumed to not work.
These pills, you see them several times throughout the film. They're about the size of like those like hard shell Easter chocolate eggs, the
Yeah.
Hard candy shell chocolate inside eggs. They're really big. They look like laundry pods or dishwasher pods, kind of.
Yeah, he might be selling dishwasher pods, and you're
They're-
supposed to eat it, and it grows.
Yeah, they're
back.
huge.
He's
yeah.
fun too, and you think he's going to be this kind of skeevy character. The way
I thought he was going to have a southern accent.
Really.
Yeah.
Okay.
He actually kind of has like a posh accent.
Yeah, I think that's just the way John O'Hurley sounds.
Yeah.
But no, he comes in and you think he's going to be like this, like skis ball or whatever, but he's not. He doesn't really have a character either. He's just trying to sell his thing, and he's a client.
Pretty much entirely on the level as far as we can tell. I mean,
Yeah,
whether or
like
not his stuff
guy.
works, it's not important to the film. But he comes in one scene to talk with Gwen, and she's already having kind of this crisis of conscience about what she's been doing with Paul and lying to Paul. And he sits down with her and basically says, "You're not a believer, are you?" And she has like a panic attack that, "Oh no, this man knows that I'm not a Christian.
I've been called out.
I've been called out." But no, he pulls out a couple of before and after photos of himself without hair and then with hair. It's like, "You're not a believer in my product. It works. Look at me. I have hair now." And those kinds of scenes kind of happen throughout the movie where Gwen just sort of slowly becomes more and more panicked and anxious, although it never really causes her to like act out in any way. Again, this movie is very, very bland, mostly.
Yeah, like I'm having a hard time actually getting like really worked up about it, even though like the premise is like we tear this apart. It's quite unoffensive.
I will say one thing that bothered me constantly.
What's that?
This is not the fault of Mr. Tobolowsky, but his character, Douglas, the Admiral, every scene that he was in, almost every scene, he asks Patricia, Gwen's coworker, whose job is never really specified, to make him coffee, but he does it very intensely. He like leans in on her. It's a little uncomfortable in a lot of ways. Patricia, if I did not just say, is African American, which made it really kind of patronizing seeming. There are, I'm going to say there's one, black person in this movie until Gwen goes to the like city church.
Mm-hmm.
We called it the fun church. She kind of goes into this sort of unassuming, storefront, and it's
like everyone's welcome, and
small
on the
warehouse
inside,
space. Yeah, everyone's welcome, and people are just like standing on a stage, clapping, singing, like gospel style music.
like fun, like southern, black gospel music.
Looked great. If I went to church, that would be the kind of church I would want to go to.
So those are the only African American people in this movie. So it's Patricia who gets the role of sassy black friend, and then all of the people in this fun church, and that's it. So that's unfortunate, but again, no secondary characters really have any
like
non-archetypal.
They don't have arcs.
Yeah, personalities.
Yeah. There to highlight this, Patricia. There is a scene where Gwen confesses to Patricia what she is doing. She says she went on Christian Mingle. She met a guy, and Patricia basically says, "Why are you doing this? Christian Mingle is a website for Christians to find Christians. It's not supposed to be for you." Later, after Gwen has her come to Jesus moment and like starts learning about Christianity and believing in good faith, she comes back to Patricia and basically says, now I'm a true believer. And then they quote some verse together. And Gwen is surprised to find out that Patricia is Christian. Yeah. It's like actually surprising to her. And it was surprising to me that she somehow didn't realize that her coworker and friend was Christian, who had already lectured her on like having real faith.
Again, Gwen is some sort of alien that doesn't think that like 70% of America is Christian.
Yeah, this movie exists in America where nobody talks about their faith except for true believers, basically.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that. Yeah, like it is like this mystery thing that like, I don't know. There's a part where when she starts going to church and, studying the Bible, she starts noticing all of these people around town who are Christian. She's like, oh, I'm part of this community, which like is a nice message. But again, it's not a hard thing to find. She's in it seems like a fairly small or medium-sized town somewhere in like middle America. Like most of your neighbors are probably Christian.
Let's see. You want to talk about like Gwen and Paul's relationship?
Yeah.
Just like go over there, because that is the arc of the movie.
That's basically everything.
Yeah.
So the movie has this real big theme about authenticity and like being who you actually are. Mm-hmm. And they introduce Paul where he's like, I'm so sorry I'm late. And he's like, he says something about how he used to want to be a rock star, which I find incredibly difficult to believe.
Yeah.
And it never comes up again.
I would love to know what kind of music he listened to, like who his idol was.
Yeah, but
I don't know.
Aside from that and not knowing anything else, it's like all about like, who are you as a person? Mm-hmm. And Gwen doesn't know who she is as a person and has kind of made up this whole identity around like spinning stories and, I could lie with the best of them, mm-hmm. whatever that means. Paul's really about like, I think this movie's quite aspirational in that like everybody who is like reflective of like, the Christian subgroup in this movie is like being their best selves. They're like honest, they're community oriented, they're generous, they're charitable, like mm-hmm. they're just all around really nice people.
I will say, at its core, the message of this movie is to be honest about who you are and to wear that on your sleeve, like present who you are every day, and to not act against your own self-image, essentially. Gwen finally finds happiness when she fully aligns her own inner desires with how she is acting outwardly, and I mean that's good.
And this is something I'll definitely give Paul credit for too, is like he's very much about like that internal self. And another message of the movie is that your faith is not a performative thing. It's not just mm-hmm. going to church and knowing Bible verses and doing all of these things. And it's about like, have you accepted Christ into your heart?
I want to give Paul actually some credit, because as other people around him are starting to doubt Gwen, he actually still believes in her because he likes her. I mean, they do have, chemistry in whatever way. He likes her and he's trying to give her the benefit of the doubt. When they first meet in a coffee shop on their first date, they both get these huge cups of coffee, some cookies, and Gwen says
Praise
grace
over the coffee.
Yeah. And Paul says, I've never said grace over a cup of coffee, but he thinks it's funny.
Yeah.
It's awkward, but like he's willing to give it a try. It's fine. And really throughout the whole movie, he's really honest about what he wants and who he is. So it's kind of hard to like hate Paul because he's just so just there. Like he's just who he is, and there's nothing really behind.
Like I said, he's like a golden retriever,
Yeah.
You know exactly what this dog is thinking.
Yeah.
You know exactly what Paul is thinking. And there's actually a part where, in there, when her secret gets revealed and that she's like not actually Christian, he comes right out and confronts her, and he's like, I don't think you're actually a true believer. And it's like, is that right? And she's like, no, but like I've been on this amazing journey with you, and I really like you and you really like me. And he's like, no, like my faith is important to me, and like if I can't share that with you, then we can't be together. And she's like, well, I've had a great experience so far. Is this something you think you could guide me towards? And he's like, no, like I don't think I can. Like this is something that you have to do for yourself. And it's not about like me and us, it's about like you and capital H him, which is a joke they make a lot.
Yes, they do. They point up at the sky a lot, and use the capital H him.
And then after she kind of starts on her journey and she joins Fun Church and she starts like practicing and really like learning about Christianity. She goes to try and reconnect with Paul and apologize to him, and she finds out that he's holding hands with his like high school sweetheart Kelly, and she's like really broken up about this. And then like a weird thing in the movie happens where like she invites him out and sits down with him, and it's the part of the rom-com formula where you have like sort of the big confessional, and like she confronts him, and she's like, I did lie to you, but I think that we have something here, and Kelly's not right for you, and like you always choose the safe thing, and you let other people decide your world for you, and you don't make any choices. So far, there's been no evidence in the movie that this is true.
There's been no evidence in the movie that Kelly is anything but just
a nice, compatible person for him.
A person who also has faith in Jesus Christ. Like there's nothing aside from Paul having some apprehensions because it is, a semi sort of arranged, like social pressure thing from his parents that
but like
Kelly
they also
is
like
a
each
bad
other.
person. Yeah. I mean, they don't hate each other.
Yeah.
It's actually kind of interesting that, in this sort of rom-com formula, we get to that, big confessional moment where in like, pretty much any other rom-com, that would be the point where the two romantic leads, throw their arms up, they, embrace each other, they kiss, they say they love each other, and
he has his breakdown. He's like, you know what, you're right.
Yeah, but no, we don't get that. He rejects her like quite forcefully.
Quite coldly, actually. He's
like, I can't believe you've done this. Like, that's uncalled for.
The part where she's like, not to be rude to Kelly, it's like, no, that was extremely rude.
Super rude. Like, Gwen, that was incredibly rude.
That's the rudest thing you could do. And he's like, I don't think we should see each other anymore. Like, this is like wrong. Like, I'm with Kelly, I can't be with you. Like, goodbye.
Yeah, we can't do this.
And I was so like, I knew that it wasn't going to turn out this way, but I was actually quite hopeful that like, I was like, what if the movie just stayed that way and like she has to go off and, like find herself more or like go back on christianmingle.com and find another man.
Oh, that would have been so good. That would have been
like,
great.
I was like, this movie almost actually took a really strong and interesting stance of just like completely subverting the genre and saying like, no, like these people are too different and they don't belong together.
How incredible would it have been if they acknowledged that, like, hey, sometimes on a dating site, on whatever service, you may not be immediately compatible. You may have a lot in common. You may both be Christian, but people are still people, and circumstances are what they are. You can get back on our website, and we'll work for you. My expectation coming into this, because we watched the trailer before we watch the movie. In the trailer, Paul sounds like a serial killer. He sounds so sinister to me. He's not in it very much, which is probably why. You basically only get kind of like a record scratch moment where he and Gwen are on their first date, and he basically replies to, I forget exactly what she said, with like, yeah, like that sounds great, just as great as my faith in God, like record scratch.
All of the actual,
and it was just so jarring in the trailer when it just sort of comes up that, like, in the movie itself, you have so much more context, obviously. I could see a version of this movie, like, where you could easily turn this into some kind of, like, psychodrama.
Yeah. Well, that actually happens a few times where, like, there's sometimes when people work, it's like worked into the dialogue naturally. Like when Paul's father, he's like, alrighty, almighty, let's eat. And they're like, that's like, corny and wholesome and fun. But then there's other parts where people will just say a normal sentence and then act as like, like Jesus Christ. I was like, I don't know if people actually talk like that. Like, it is very jarring. So I could see how you would think that. And I was on board with you too, for like the first half of the movie, because on their second date, Paul tells this really messed up story about how when he was a kid, he was like really into science, and he wanted to perform a science experiment of unclear hypothesis. So the experiment was he had two mice, and one mouse he kept in a box and like shone red light on it all the time and played like rock music all the time.
Like, he literally says 24 hours a day.
24 hours a day.
Yeah.
Like the things that they do in, like, CIA black sites to, like,
torture.
Yeah, like actual torture. And he's like, and then the other mouse, I put in blue light and soft classical music. And I noticed that the mouse in the red box ran the maze faster than the mouse, and the mouse in the blue box just kind of wandered around. And then I would, before each test, I would give them this cheese, and that was their same goal. And then I had an epiphany where it's like, we all take our own way, but we're all heading for the same destination, the same goal, that cheese. Jesus Christ.
And then Gwen says, Jesus Christ, and they both laugh.
Oh yeah, and then she makes a cheese. But also, like, nobody's talking about this, like, hey, that's a messed up thing to do to
hey,
some
Paul, why did your teacher let you do that? That's really, really, like, cruel.
Yeah, that's really cruel.
It's horrible.
And then, but that never comes up again. His rock background never comes up again.
No.
Like, like Paul might have been a serial killer, but now he's like reformed and just like wants to lay low or something.
That's right.
But yeah, like other than, but like, so that you get these like weird discordant moments, and then everything else is like fine. Like Paul's just like a nice man. A nice, honest man.
A nice white guy in a button-down shirt.
He's a nice boy.
Nice boy.
So yeah, like it felt like almost there were multiple writers responsible for different parts.
Sure there were.
Yeah, I'm sure there were multiple writers, but they didn't feel like totally synthesized. There's like one writer was trying to like do this like rom-com subversion. Another writer was trying to make a best ad for Christian Mingle. Another was making this like weird, sinister psychodrama. And then all of the stuff at her work didn't matter. That was...
Oh, no. Like, literally had zero impact on her life. She's clearly very successful because she has her own, like, condo, like, walk-up condo.
Yeah.
Fully furnished. But there are several times in the film where she literally has no work done, like 0 words on the page when she has to do a marketing pitch for Donnie DeBona.
Donnie DeMona. And
she literally tries to pass off these pills to her boss and Mr. DeBona as what is it? Rain from heaven? Rainfall from
rain.
Heaven's rain, and is going on this kind of semi-sermon, and takes a cup full of these pills, holds it over her boss's head, and tips them over like they're raining down upon him.
Shouting heaven's rain.
Yes, shouting heaven's rain, and somehow she is not fired instantly. Instead, she's given a scolding, and her boss apologizes for breaking the picture frame that's hanging on her wall when he like opens the door too fast.
Because again, everyone in this movie is super nice.
Super nice. Right after that, she goes to Mexico to
go on the mission, and does not tell her boss. She
does not tell her boss. We hear that she has 3 years of vacation time saved up. And when she returns after her unfortunate outing as a non-believer, her boss basically just kind of like accepts that she came back. Patricia lied and covered for her and said that she had strep throat. So basically, nothing in this movie really has any stakes.
Yeah. So if you're into that, then like great. Like I gotta say, aside from like, let's see, there's like the stereotyping, which is pretty bad. The jokes are generally bland, but I find it hard to get worked up about this movie. In terms of its like politics, I would say it's probably actually better than most rom-coms,
Probably.
Most people seem to be in healthy relationships. Everybody's genuinely concerned about each other. People are honest and helpful. Even her friends don't like enable her. They're like, girl, you need to like shape up because you are desperate and we can all tell.
Yeah.
You need to get it together.
I will say, one thing this movie kind of does at the end, you may have already mentioned this. Kelly just disappears 1 year later. When Gwen has gone down to Mexico to be a teacher at the town where the mission was. She meets Paul there. Paul says Kelly is gone now. Like she's not in my life or my heart anymore.
Oh yeah, she's not in my life or my heart.
Yeah, and that's it. Kelly's gone.
You could recut this to be a serial killer film, I think. Actually,
I'm telling you.
I forgot. I had kind of passed over that because again, he's so like nice and charming. Maybe this is how Ted Bundy got people.
Oh no.
He just seems like such a nice boy. He couldn't.
No, he's so
he
nice.
Couldn't kill all those women.
No, Paul.
No, Paul, don't do it.
Paul even tried sushi. He's a nice boy.
He tried sushi and he acted like a 5-year-old.
Yeah.
He stabbed it with a chopstick and then made a bad face and chewed it for like 45 seconds.
Yeah.
And eventually swallowed that piece of tuna.
Good on him for trying it.
He tried it.
Yeah. You have anything else you want to talk about this film?
I don't think so. I don't know. Again, like I was reasonably happy with it. Like it didn't make me mad. It was just kind of this like silly, mediocrely put together movie.
Yep.
I would say if you're into that sort of thing, go watch it. If you want to, get a little more raw experience, just read the Bible.
Yep.
You'll get
directly to the source. That's what Gwen did. She just read the Bible.
If you're really into like kind of shitty people having a redemption story, watch The Good Place.
Yeah.
Kristen Bell's
The Good Place
character is basically a, more sharper version of Gwen, and she has a better arc with actual consequences.
Yep.
I don't know. What would you watch or read instead?
If I wanted to read something about a character that grapples with their own self-worth and their beliefs and their place in the universe, I would read the webcomic Kill 6 Billion Demons.
Yeah, actually, that I think that's a solid recommendation.
Kill 6 Billion Demons, I'll give you the 30-second pitch, is a webcomic about a sorority girl who is whisked away basically out of our own dimension into the larger kind of multiverse. And and she finds out that she is the chosen one. She's been given the god power from the former king of all dimensions, and she has to deal with that fact. There's a lot of fighting. If you like martial arts movies or like kung fu stuff,
which I will stress, Christian Mingle has none of.
Zero
kung
but if you
fu.
like that kind of stuff, if you like special attacks being called out, if you love beautiful, colorful, highly saturated art that's full of detail, it's great. If you love heavy Asian culture pastiche, especially like Southeast Asian, you will probably be into this.
Sorry, Janelle. This is now a podcast where we talk about this one webcomic.
Yeah.
This is no longer a rom-com podcast.
I'm not sorry. But yeah, check out Kill 6 Billion Demons, and if you want to talk about it, you can find me.
All right, you heard it here. Find Geoff. He'll talk about this with you. Find me.
But also watch The Good Place. Or, if you just want to learn more about the good works of Jesus Christ, you could read the Bible.
And Gwen's not wrong. There are some pretty metal verses in the Bible, so it's worth it. I think it's a good read.
Or don't read the Bible. Check out the Torah or the Quran or
your religious text of choice.
Whatever. Knowledge is important. All right.
The more you know. Thanks, Geoff.
The more you know. Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to the RomCom Killjoys podcast. If you liked this episode, make sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram at RomCom Killjoys. And if you'd like to support us further, you can become a patron at patreon.com/RomComKilljoys to gain access to exclusive bonus content. Our theme song is Lady Slut Hitchhike Love by the band A Giant Dog. And the song you're listening to now is a cover of one of my favorites, Baby Love, by Colin Langanis. Remember, Killjoys, don't let anyone kill your joy. Not a rom-com, not me, not anyone. See you next time.